do with it? Like, I feel so guilty that you guys are doing such awesome work, and I felt like I needed to get involved with what you guys are doing. So I asked Robert, I was like, how can we add value to, everybody that's in the PC program that's working so hard and so diligently, because it's a big deal you're in this group. This group is a team within a team, right? I mean, it really is. It operates in many ways like a big team. And that happens to be one of the things I'm most passionate about. What I hope today, what I was hoping to do is just, I really wanted this to be your time. I wanted us to talk about the things that you feel are important. Could be the struggles you're experiencing, could be the questions that you have, um, could just be an avenue for you to, express your thoughts. Um, I didn't really come with an agenda, although I've got, this time of the year, there's certainly some things that I generally focus on and talk about more than others, considering it is the holidays. And you guys have done a very good job of fighting seasonality, right? Um, right now, historically, what we see is that real estate agents, they collectively take their foot off the gas, right? Um, not you guys though, not you. You have a coach that is holding you accountable, that's communicating with you on a regular basis, that's really leading you through the seasonality of the business. And what I would tell you is that people outside of your program, they may not have the same drive as you do. They may not have the same goals as you do. They may not want to work as hard as you do. And I would encourage you to stay close to your productivity coaching group through any holiday season when the general populace of agents wants to unplug. What happens when we unplug is that obviously we feel it 60, 90 days later. And I see it happen again and again and again. So, one of the topics that I thought we would talk about and dive deeper into is, what are we talking to people about right now? Like, what are the conversations that you have right now, given that it's December the 3rd? What are you talking about?
So I'll jump in just for a minute with the agent. We're really right now, we're going to focus on during December, expired listings and being in groups. So even though the gatherings will be small, this is usually where the agent will be around their network, and someone within that network will ask them, hey, my home hasn't sold, and do you know a good agent? And so that's one of the topics that we've been looking at. What are your thoughts on that, Andy?
Yeah, no, certainly expired is a great strategy anytime. You're seeing a lot of homes expire off the market seasonally around November and December as you start hitting the holidays. So I do think that's a great pillar for you to work on.
Oh, I think we lost you.
All right, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Somebody muted me.
Okay.
I get that. I get it. But I'm talking more generally, like whenever you go, when you're calling into your database, what are you trying to figure out about the people that you know right now? What would be most important?
What their goals are for next year.
Yeah, how does real estate fit into your goals for next year? I think that's a great topic. In terms of lead generation, I found that it's a lot easier to kind of keep people engaged in a conversation whenever you talk about them and not you, right? So there's a couple of things that I like to ask people when I'm just checking on them, right? The first is, hey, when's the last time you thought about moving? When's the last time you thought about moving? Boy, that goes in a lot of different directions, doesn't it?
It is.
But what you're going to find, somebody's going to say, you know, we were just talking about it last week, or it's been years, right? But whatever the answer is, you always want to respond with, well, what stopped you from doing that? What got in the way?
Mhm.
And you're an air traffic controller with your database. You're a resource, right? And whatever it is that gets in the way, chances are you probably have another resource you could refer them to. Maybe it's, well, we were saving money, or maybe it's we're waiting for our child to graduate, you know, whatever it is, that's all very valuable information for you to reestablish what do you need, what can you do to help them, or when, WHEN, when they would be in a position to do something. And if you knew the when for everybody in your database, game over. Lead generation is like shooting fish in a barrel, right? So we've got to, the activities that we do right now have got to set up some future actions. So everybody in the database, if you knew their when, and you had a system for your lead generation in terms of when you were going to touch them next, a next step. The second thing that I would ask people, just generally speaking, right? If we need conversations, we need to have conversations with people, or dig deeper into the relationship. It's, hey, Robert, what does your dream home look like? What does your dream home look like?
Probably something on the ocean or on the lake.
Yeah. What's important to you about that? What's important to you about the water?
Just sort of lets you relax. It just makes you feel tranquil.
So if you had to decide between the ocean or the lake, which one would it be?
Well, I got 4 daughters right now, so the lake's probably a little more affordable, but maybe the ocean a couple years out.
Got it. Okay. So how many bedrooms, baths are we thinking?
Well, we need at least 5 bedrooms and at least 3 baths would be more than enough.
Got it. What else do you see like in that home? Maybe it's a special feature. Maybe it's an amenity like a pool, or you've got a media room or something like that. What else do you see in that house, in that dream home?
I like that. Probably a big open concept kitchen, because we'll be entertaining there, having a family there. And then my dad's getting a bit older, so probably a gentle slope, but still need a deep lot.
Got it. Yeah. Let me ask you, Robert, when do you plan to be settled in that home?
I want to be there within the next 24 months.
Got it. What's important to you about the next 24 months?
Gosh, I just want to enjoy it. I'm getting a little older. Nobody laugh. But I want to enjoy it while I'm still young enough.
Yeah. So let me ask you, Robert, if I was to find this house, maybe in the next 90 days, would you be interested in knowing about it?
Yeah, I'll talk to my wife. I'd probably like to know faster than that. Maybe, next month or so.
Okay. So is it really about the timing, or is it about finding the house?
Probably finding the house.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we need to meet. Let's
I'm
talk
good with
about
that.
Yeah, let's talk about what that looks like, because if I could find that house for you, man, that would be so awesome for you to get into it sooner than you expect. If we can find a way for you to do that, wouldn't that be awesome?
Oh man, I'm already getting up. I'm getting excited just you talking about it.
I know. So break script. Those are the conversations where, when's the last time you thought about moving, or what's your dream home look like? Those are tremendous conversation starters for you to go deeper, right? And really uncover some opportunities. Maybe they didn't even realize that they were ready to start looking for property. when you ask somebody when they want to be settled, and whatever answer they give you, whether it's in the next month or in the next 2 years, your answer should always be, great. Sounds like we need to meet.
Absolutely.
And now you're setting appointments, right? Now you're not lead generating, you're appointment setting. So I just wanted to share those from a lead generation standpoint. Those are good, easy hacks. I use them all the time. I mean, that is lead generation 101 for me.
Love it. Love it.
The other, real easy lead generation idea right now, when you guys get home and you go check your mailbox, what are you getting a lot of right now?
Political stuff.
Say it again.
Political stuff.
Yeah, that's true. You're probably getting more of that than you are holiday cards right now. That was what I was pushing for, right? Yeah.
Getting
Most
postcards.
Yeah. So
Postcards from Open Door,
Yeah.
virtual properties. It once, twice a week we're getting something.
Wow. Well, hopefully you've got people in your world that are sending you some holiday card, right? And we're probably sending those out ourselves as well. And what greater lead generation tactic than to just call people or Facebook message people or text people and say, I got your Christmas card or your Hanukkah card or your Kwanzaa card. I got your holiday card, and wow, what a beautiful family. Except that one on the right. We don't know what happened to him, but no, you would make sure that you made them feel good, right? You would make sure that they felt valued by you. You got their card and you were honored that you got it. Leslie is probably the queen of this. She just stacks them up. I mean, we get 5 to 10 a day, and she stacks them up, and that is her chosen lead generation, is just checking in with the people that sent the Christmas card. Easy, no brainer. And by the way, when you get those Christmas cards, what's typically on them?
Address.
Return address.
Yeah. So you're going through the database and checking to make sure that the address is right. What else might be on a holiday card?
Phone number.
Your family.
Could be their phone number. It could be their family, right? The names of their children. How about the names of their dogs and their cats, right?
Major
What
life
kind of
event
dog?
for the year.
Yeah, sometimes you get the long letter, right? You take it out and you fold it out, accordions out with all the stuff that they've accomplished in the course of the year. Yeah. And where should all that information go?
To your
Database.
database.
Your database.
Yeah, it goes straight into the database. Because the next conversation that you have with them is about what is going on with them, right? It's not about you, it's about them.
Awesome.
So always this time of the year, I always like to remind people, like, let's not overcomplicate this, right? Let's make sure that we're that we are pouring into the people in our database and we're learning stuff about them. This is like the easiest time to learn things about our database.
Love it.
What other lead generation ideas do you have right now?
Just calling up various people that we know and asking what their holiday plans are.
Yeah.
Especially now.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Probably
So-
small, real small get-togethers. Like, hey, would you guys like to get together for coffee or a glass of wine? Just real. There was an article a while back that mentioned small groups produce some of the best referrals. So it's sort of this particular environment really does lead towards that.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
have two ideas of things that I'm thinking about doing. One is kind of like doing a poll being that it's the Christmas season, saying, hey, do you prefer retail shopping or online shopping? Do you like turkey or chicken, whatever. Like, so that was something only because, and I want to do that on a smart plan, pretty much to just generate conversation. And then the second thing that I was thinking is that I saw that all of the, what is it? AMCs, they are doing $100 where you can rent out a theater. And if you have like 15 people, you can still social distance and do like a really small something just to thank you. Like, even if it's for your vendors, that do something for them just to say thankful for whatever, movie
Yeah.
on, something fun. And then hopefully that's another way just to kind of like generate that business, like right back to you. So those are two ideas that I'm kind of playing with right now.
Love it. Great
Well,
idea.
yeah, one that's working for me, and I'm new, but instead of blasting out an invitation to all my LinkedIn people, virtual coffee chats are working, right? They're really comfortable with Zoom, and most people are not comfortable meeting for coffee. So, but they're accepting virtual coffee invitations, 15-minute catch up, end of the year conversation starter, and then I can let
Love
them
it.
know I'm in real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not letting COVID stop you from doing what you should be doing, which is connecting with people.
Yeah, exactly.
And some of these, right? It's let me buy you a cup of coffee and send them a $5 Starbucks card. Let them brew their own coffee at home for now. But hey, if we were together right now, I'd be buying your cup of coffee. So I hope you got my email. I sent you a cup of coffee. Okay, so we're talking about how do we get together with people, or how do we get face to face with people? How are you responding right now to how's the market? Inevitably, that's the question you're going to get, right? How's the market?
I think the
How do
big
you
one for me has been, everybody knows that the market is super, super hot. But like the guy mentioned this morning, they're like, well, we'd love to sell our house, but we don't have anywhere to go. So it's two-pronged, right? They need to find a house and sell the house
Mhm.
with the limited
So-
stock in the marketplace. Right.
Yeah, boy, when somebody says that
Yeah.
we'd love to sell the house, but we don't know where to go.
I'm door
Um,
knocking
I'll
to find one place.
I'll try to pin them down and say, I got you. I completely understand. So if we could find you a home right now, you would be in a position to buy it, and then we would list your home. Is that what I hear you saying? Yeah. Sounds like we need to meet. All right. Sounds like we need.
Line of the day. We need to meet.
Yeah. Yes. You always need to meet.
That's the line of every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And then obviously whenever you're meeting with somebody, it's about a needs analysis, right? It's about asking them the right questions so that you uncover the needs, and then your job is to meet those needs. So that's not just what does the house look like and what color are the shutters, right? This is if you could wave the magic wand, how would you want this process to go? What would you want it to look like? What's most important to you? And really leaning into what they want. You've got that process. We actually talked this morning on Mindset and Market Share with Scott Hamilton a little bit about this. Is if you don't have any needs, you don't really have anything to sell.
Yep.
Right.
I want his one-page presentation. I love that. His presentations, I know in the corporate world anyway, are shrinking, right? Nobody has the tolerance for 15, 20-page presentations anymore. So they say if you can't communicate in 3 slides, you've lost their attention. But as I learned this, I'll dive into the master presentation, I guess.
Yeah. And, really what that looks like is, what is the offering? Like, what are we going to do for you? When you list with me, here's our commitment to you. And if you can get that all on one page, so that it's not so noisy. Then it becomes about, was there anything else that I didn't address here that I should have addressed?
Mhm.
Yeah, I have, unfortunately, my early days of selling, I have really felt like I wasn't doing my job unless I went through every page of a presentation.
Right. Yeah.
And of course, I have learned the hard way with that. It doesn't take many high D dominant personalities to run into before you start losing business and realize that's not probably the best way to behave. Yeah.
Have people found doing the listing presentation virtually to be effective?
Very.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll go back ever to 100% in person.
Yep. That's what I thought.
The sellers actually like it for a number of reasons. Is that, you know, if they've got small children in the house and they're dealing with whatever chaos or the cleaning of the kitchen or feeding them, they don't feel like they have to do quite as much prep. And they spend, and as soon as you're done, you're done. It's smoother. And like Andy was talking about this morning, is that the documents are cleaner too, typically.
Mhm.
And then one of the major objections, I just had a conversation this morning, was, well, this Mark Shane guy, right? We're going to sell it without showing it.
Mhm.
How's that working? And what's our response to that?
You're talking about Mark Spain? You're talking about Mark Spain? Mark
You know,
Spain's got a
his-
program like
We're going to
that?
sell it without showing it.
Well, I believe that that's probably a message that is resonating with a lot of people. Remember, there's 3 types of people right now, right? There's the people that are scared to death, scared to even go outside because of COVID. There's a moderate group that's trying to find a way back to normalcy. And then there's a group that thinks it's a hoax.
Yeah.
And as professionals, we have to be ready for all 3 of those personalities. So what he's choosing to do is to go after the people who are scared to death, right?
Yeah.
And that's not a bad strategy. You could do that. We have what we call a COVID-19 seller protection plan. And by the way, it's the exact same seller presentation that we always make, with 1 page that talks about what we do differently in COVID. We wear masks, we have sanitization stations, we require foot booties, we require them to do that. In many cases, we limit the windows for showings, where it's maybe only available, from 1 to 4 on Saturday and Sunday. All of those things are designed to appeal to that third of the market that thinks, oh my God, this is just not going to happen. The reality is that there's probably more people in the middle that COVID doesn't change the fact that they're about to have a baby and they're in a 1-bedroom condo.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't change the fact that all of a sudden their husbands lost their job and they need to sell the house to grab the equity because they're in uncertain times, right? COVID doesn't really matter in those scenarios. This becomes about, all right, in this challenging time, how do we get the deal done in your best interest? Or how do we get the deal done and with your best health in mind? Or they think it's a hoax. How do we get the deal done whenever we're dealing with people that are really concerned about it, even though you're not, right? So you just have to know who you're working with. Or you have to make a choice as to, all right, this segment, I'm going to go after this segment. You have to be careful sometimes with that because you don't want to alienate the other segments.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are conscious decisions for sure. So how's the market? Like whenever you hear how's the market, what are you responding in those scenarios right now?
Well, the rates are lowest in history.
What does that mean?
That means you can get more house for less money.
Got it. Yeah, that's the key, right? Is that we don't give needless statistics or boring statistics. We actually dig into why is that important.
Yeah.
What else? What else would you say about what's going on in the market right now?
Ideal for a seller that wants to capitalize.
Very low inventory. Yep.
Migration to the suburbs and to the mountains.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
Got it.
that is. You got it.
So Andy, I have said I got licensed in 2006, and I know everybody knows what happened from 2008 to 2012. And I've always said that the market's a great market because it's actually how I choose to respond to it. I always tell them it's a great market, no matter what. And because it can be, if we do the activities and stay in our relationship with people, it's always a great market for somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah,
Mel.
it's kind of interesting what's going on right now. There is, I talked about this on a podcast recently. There's a sense of mutualism that's going on right now. Mutualism meaning that you have two separate parties that both need each other and both are winning, right? Sellers are winning, they're getting the most money. Buyers are winning because they're getting the lowest interest rates. And quite frankly, if somebody's going to stay in the house for 5, 7, 10, heaven forbid, 30 years, the fact that they're paying top dollar for a house right now probably doesn't matter, considering you're locking in at historically low interest rates, right? So everybody's winning right now, which is quite unusual. I've not seen that in my history in the real estate market, which is, I only have 12 years of experience, but I've seen extreme buyers markets, right? 2010 was the pit of the market, and we had nearly 20 months worth of inventory. That felt a lot different than it does today at 1 month supply of inventory. Interest rates were low then, but they weren't this low.
You know what, Andy, in reflection on that, I mean, the buyer's market that we were in was as great for buyers to be able to buy at really low prices as it is for sellers right now to be able to really make a big deal happen for them. So
it's a win-win. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a win-win now. And
Yes.
actually in those days, right, 2000, you said 2008 to 2012, Mignon, those were a lot of win-lose scenarios, right? You had buyers winning and sellers, like, I can't tell you how many listing appointments I went on whenever I would share the statistics and a market analysis for them, and I would suggest a price, and the seller would start crying. I mean, literally breaking down and crying. And that we haven't experienced that in quite some time. Those are certainly win-lose scenarios.
Yeah, that was very tough. It absolutely was a win for the buyers and a big lose for a lot of sellers. That was tough.
It was.
I think what else is interesting is the millennial market, right? They're cashed up, but they're allergic to debt, right? I think Mickey sent out a report that I have not had a chance to review yet, but I think there's untapped potential to sell to the millennials.
Yeah. Well, a lot of those guys are strapped with debt as well, the school debt.
Yeah.
That's a major problem that we have in America, and it's taking the first-time home buyer. It's taking 2 to 3 years longer than average because they're scared to outlay money. Certainly, COVID doesn't help that. Creates more uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what kind of certainty? Speaking of that, what kind of certainty can you give people as a real estate agent right now?
Boy, that's scary, isn't it?
I
There's
think,
a couple.
certainty in pricing for sure.
and you could also do, the certainty you can give them is the fact that, you know, the rates are at an all-time low.
Yeah.
Locking
You
it
can
in for
prove
30
that.
years.
Yeah. You can prove that, right?
Faster to pay it off
Yeah.
in 15.
This is all great party chatter stuff. As real estate agents, and really salespeople in general, the worst thing that you can do, the worst, is I feel like this, right? The wind's blowing this way. I feel like this is what we should do. That is typically the wrong answer. You've got to speak in terms of history. You got to speak in terms of numbers and understand, why is that important to people? You really do have to speak in certain terms. It's okay for you to give your perspective, but you also need to use your brain by looking at the real picture, right?
History, trends, stats, right?
Right.
Less on perspective.
Charts and graphs. Yeah. Especially if you don't have 12 years of experience or even 5 years of experience, you should take a lot of comfort in statistics, right? Because you are speaking truth, you're speaking facts. And as long as you understand what those statistics are telling people, and you can communicate that effectively, you are going to come across more knowledgeable than 12-year veterans who don't use it.
Yep.
It makes you smart. You all are smart, but you know what I mean. It makes the conversation easier. So, man, anybody that is growing their real estate business from the beginning or rebooting, just going back to the basics means you're going back to understanding the market, and you're able to communicate that in terms of what that means. That's why the statistics presentation, that's why Les and I spend so much time on it. Quite frankly, in the downturn, when there was blood in the streets, we would hang on those statistics. I mean, that was the thing, any like glimmer of hope that was gleamed, and there's always hope in statistics, right? There's always, no matter how bad it gets, there's always a bright side to it. But we would literally, we would expect the worst and hope for the best. And we would understand those statistics so well that when we get on an appointment, we would slam dunk it. And in those days, we had 2 years, 3 years of experience. I mean, we were no real estate expert, right?
Yep. Predictors. People love predictive analytics and stats, right? Good one for social.
Well, one of the, and this is a little bit of a speculation on my part, but one of the things that I'm watching very closely is how do these historic interest rates, how do these affect the 7 to 10 year clock that either exists in somebody's head or it's just, it's assumed that they move every 7 to 10 years. How does refinancing affect that? You know, if we have people that have been in a home for 7 to 10 years and all of a sudden COVID hits and the rates drop to 2.3%, which they did, and they refinance, how long until they sell their house now? That's something we don't really know, right? Even more of a reason for us to understand the WHEN, WHEN, for everybody in the database. Hey, how's COVID affected your future plans or your housing goals for the future? It'd be nice to know that.
That's a good one. Yep.
I know we've been in our house. I mean, we're realtors, so I feel like we get tempted every day with a house. But we refinanced. We went from a 15-year that we were paying every 2 weeks to a 30-year just because we wanted to hold on to our cash. And now we look up and, you know, things turned out to be a lot better than we expected. And I think it changed our idea of if we're going to move.
Mm.
And I don't think I'm I don't think I'm unique in that experience. So then what that does is it created a whole wave of renovations in the house, right? New investments in the home. And even if somebody's not going to move, like if you knew that and you're able to be a trusted advisor and again, air traffic controller and help them find the vendors that made the most sense, or, you know, guided and consulted them with, all right, what makes the most sense for the future value of your home? You are continuing to build that long-term relationship with them, and you're just making deposits, right? You're just making deposits in them. So that would be nice to know.
Is that, so that's the average people stay in their homes 7 to 10 years?
Yeah, they used to say 7 years, and I've heard from the stage, I've heard Gary saying 10 years now. But I think 7 to 10 is accurate. I mean, think about your own experience or those around you.
Yeah.
Your perspective in that is certainly valid. In some parts of the country, you know, as prices were escalating through the boom, you had people that were moving every 2 years. It was like, as soon as they could pass that 2-year mark and wouldn't have to pay capital gains tax on the sale, they were moving.
Yeah.
And they were just leveraging, right? Moving up. I don't know. That leads to trouble in my opinion. That's not a fact, but that is my opinion. That leads to trouble. But in order for something to change in the market, irrationality has to happen, right? Whenever you look up and you say, this doesn't make any sense, it's probably too late.
Yeah.
It's probably too late. How else can I help? What other questions do you guys have that I can help y'all with?
I really like your probing questions, right? Some of those are really helpful.
Yeah, it's all about questions.
Yeah.
My dad, I worked with my dad for 7 years before I got into real estate. And I would sit on appointments with him. We sold business to business. And I would count how many questions he would ask in an appointment. And if he didn't ask 10 questions in the appointment, it was not a very good one. And it probably didn't have a great result. Yep. But I would literally have a tally. And, you know, one of the things I learned from him is that after every experience you have, you always replay the call. So you ask yourself a series of questions, right? What did I do really well there? What could I have done differently? Or what could I have done better? If I was going to do this again, what would I have done? And he and I used to do that after every call. And we would talk about how many questions did I ask? How many questions did he ask? He usually was busting me more than I was busting him.
So for a question.
Go ahead, Robert. Sorry.
What do you think is the biggest mistake an agent makes when they're at their first few listing appointments?
On the listing appointment?
Let's say they've got listing appointment 1 through 5. What is a common mistake, or is there one that you see them make when they're at that listing appointment? Because what I find is their first listing appointments are so critical, and we work so hard to help them not make those mistakes. So just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I think it's talking too much. I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that we make is not asking the questions, not taking notes. You know, taking notes is not a sign of weakness. Taking notes is a sign of attention and honor. really. Like I'm honoring what it is that you're telling me. I want to pay attention to this. You know, I always think about when you go to a nice restaurant and the waiter doesn't take notes on your order. I don't know about you, but that annoys me. I'm like expecting them to make a mistake, right? I want somebody that is going to take my order, write it down, and then repeat it to me, right? So I think it's not asking questions, not taking notes, and not agreeing on the needs. So in other words, as I ask you questions and you answer them, I'm writing it all down. But before we move on to the next segment, which could be looking at the prices or could be going on the tour of the house, whatever, you know, before I move past that segment of the appointment, I want to stop and say, I just want to make sure I got this right. So if we could sell your house, you know, within 30 days, that would allow you to get to Dallas. And that's very important to you because you don't want to be away from your family. You know, I'm just digging down deep as from asking questions and making sure I got it. And then I want to make sure they know I got it. Because I want them to, when I leave that appointment, I want to gain the commitment on the appointment. And sometimes gaining the commitment is actually getting them to physically sign it. And sometimes it's just getting them to agree to the plan of what we just laid out, right? Sometimes it's that we're talking a year too early and we need to schedule the next appointment to get back together, right? Which I would go ahead and do. That's a commitment. But I want to gain the commitment for the appointment, and I want to make sure they know that they were heard, understood, and we have a plan that addresses their needs. So those are the things, I mean, that's my mindset and approach on a listing appointment. And I don't, frankly, I don't lose listings that I want. I went on the appointment with Scott on Tuesday. It was a big one. It was kind of in my backyard, and I didn't need to go, but I kind of wanted to go. And I found myself at times like I was shifting into listing agent mode, and I had to stop and be like, okay, Scott, let Scott do this. Let Scott do this. Let Scott do this. But together, he's got enough finesse and people skills that he didn't get annoyed by me jumping in and asking another question or, you know, trying to clarify something. He rolled with it, and you know, I think we tag teamed it and got the listing agreement signed yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Can I ask a follow-up question just to help the agents on the set?
Yeah.
What would be your best advice when an agent, they freeze up when it comes to calling? They get nervous about calling, or they just feel like, gosh, I can do everything, but this one activity, gosh, it just gets me.
Yeah, that is, you know, that's caller reluctance, as you know, and the reason we feel that way is because we feel like we don't have any value to add to people. Whenever you don't feel like you have any value, you feel like you're bothering people. And that is the surefire way to stop you in your tracks from doing the things you know you need to do. So the way you booby trap that, the way I've always booby trapped that is I schedule coffees or schedule lunches or schedule, when's the last time you looked at the value of your home? Can I pull that for you? Can I do a market analysis for you? How can I add value to somebody else? And how can I make a deposit in them before I ask for a withdrawal? I think if you're just dialing away, who do you know wants to buy and sell real estate? Who do you know that wants to buy and sell real estate? That may work once or twice, but eventually those people are going to see you show up on their phone and they're going to send you straight to their voicemail. They're not going to want to deal with that, right? On the flip side of that, if every time I call you, I'm inviting you to an event or inviting you out for a cup of coffee or, just trying to help you, it's a different feeling whenever you call. It's a different expectation. So just like you condition people to open your mail by sending them items of value and things that are nice and, you know, things that people say, wow, that's really neat. You got to condition people to take your phone call, right? You've got to condition people to respond to your email. And if the first time you reach out to somebody is to ask them for something, that's probably not a good idea.
I loved his quote this morning. He said, I wrote it down. This is great. Telling is repelling and questioning is selling.
Mm.
That was the best sales tip I've heard in a while.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I was gonna say, I'm kind of moving on to a different subject, so feel free to finish your thought, of course. But one thing that I see all the time is even agents that are either new to the business or new to Keller Williams are just super overwhelmed with all of the stuff we have, right? All the models, the systems, the scripts, the classes, the technology, the everything, right? What kind of advice would you be able to share with an agent that is either new to the industry or new to the company to kind of help get their, you know, I mean, I'm sure all of the coaches are giving great advice, but I'd love to hear your take on your recommendations.
That's a
Yeah,
good
I
question.
love that one. I love that one. And especially like during COVID, you know, it was kind of like, golly, there's something all the time. Like it's just, there's so much. And my response to that is there is an alternative to that. Right. I mean, there is a very bleak alternative to that. There is the alternative that you don't have any resources or you don't have enough resources. Resources are not the problem. Resourcefulness is the problem.
Right.
And it's the ability to know where to go to get answers. And it's implementation, right? I mean, there's so much stuff. It's in what order do I implement it?
I guess that's my question, because let's imagine we have a super resourceful person that has all the resources and doesn't even know what they don't know. What should they be doing in what order?
Oh, yeah, good question. Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to get a database, right? If you're in real estate without a database, you're paddling without a paddle. You're just whichever way the wind blows or the water wants to take you. The database is your most important tool. And the sooner you can treat that database like a fill in the blank game where you're understanding everything about people, right? Like we mentioned before, you understand where they're from. You understand what their interests are. You understand who their sports team is. You understand the names of their kids, their dogs. Are they a cat person, a dog person? Do they drink red wine, white wine? Do they not drink? Having a database is the most important thing for any real estate agent, because you might be able to be okay with 50 people and knowing an average amount about each person, but you don't need a business with just 50 people in a database, right? We know from MREA that you can gross $1 million, depending on your price point. You could gross $1 million with 500 people in your database when marketed to correctly 33 times, and you do it consistently and cohesively and creatively, right? And have the right call to action. So it's really a race. How quickly can you meet people and they know who you are and what you do, and you know who they are and what they do.
I think on the back of Bill's question, I was processing yesterday. So new agent, what's the toolkit for the minimum amount of branding I need to have completed before I launch into my database? And my assumptions were I got to have the listing presentation. I got to have my website bio thing and the KW app, right?
The company answer on that is yes, Kim. However, This is still people doing business with people. And I don't think there's no substitute for just building relationships with people, letting people know what your goals are, what you're all about, what you stand for, how you attack a real estate transaction, how you treat people. Those conversations can start minute one of your real estate career.
Yep.
And I think you can kind of get in the weeds on getting ready to get ready and really miss that aspect of it, which, by the way, we're all humans, right? We all long for that anyway. So you're really doing nothing more than just being a good friend. So your communication is around asking questions and understanding, what makes people tick, and
Yep.
being fascinated by that. Being fascinated by other people makes you fascinating, and people want to do business with you. So making it about them. But yeah, the website's nice. We've got a really nice website. I'm sure it probably generates some leads. That's not where we get 99.5% of our leads. Those leads, over 80% of them are referral and repeat, and they come from sending their kid a bib when they are born, or sending them a memorial when their grandmother passes away from cancer to the American Cancer Society. Right? That's the kind of stuff that gets you into business with people.
What about I don't mean to throw another follow-up question on this, but like Ignite, Bold, 36-12-3, all the weekly classes, like what do you suggest? What should somebody do like in the first 30, 60, 90 days, in your opinion? I know we have all the other resources, but what do you think?
Well, I don't know that it's even just when you get started in real estate, because this happens to the most seasoned agents, is we have these notebooks, right, that are the smartest notebooks known to man. So I love going to training, and the average mega agent is actually, they say, in a classroom for 54 days a year. And that resonates with me. I believe I do that. I'm in the classroom at least 54 days a year. But it's that follow-up to the information. It's the review. It's the getting a highlighter out and highlighting something. There's something incredibly important. It's writing it over and over and over, right? To me, yes, you gotta do all that training. I mean, you need that training. It's not the only thing you need. You got to get into action. But most importantly, you got to implement as quickly as you can. So when you learn something, go do it. Learn, do. And before you move on, like a good example of this is we have a brand new inside sales agent. Inside sales agent is on the phone all day long, taking inbound leads and converting them to appointments, right? That's their job. And how many scripts are there for somebody like that, right? Hundreds of scripts. She's been with us 3 weeks and she only has one script. I won't give her another script. I want her to struggle. I want her to experiment with it. I want her to see it work. Before I introduce something else, I want her to, it'd be hard to say she could master it in 30 days, maybe. But I want her to really, really focus on that one thing before I go jumbling her head up with something else.
Andy, as a follow-up to that, you were talking about the mega agents will typically be in 54 classes in the classroom for 54 days a year. This is a two-part question. One is, how many of those classes do you take that you've already taken before? And the second piece of that is, how many action items do you absolutely wholeheartedly commit to do within a short period of time and get into action on?
Yeah, great question. I like repetitiveness. I like, a good example of this is Gene Rivers next week. So this will be the fourth time in probably 3 years that I've heard Gene deliver the listing clinic. It's that important. Career visioning, I've taken nearly 10 times, probably 8 times. My goal is to teach that class. So Gary always talks about the first time you take it, it's like graduating kindergarten. Second time is first grade, right? You got to take a class like 13 times to master it. And then you got to go teach it. So I take that to heart. Whenever I attend training though, and this may be helpful, at the very beginning, I like to number 1 to 5 at the top of my page. And I personally like blank sheets. Like I like notebooks without lines because I'm kind of a doodler and I like to be creative. And sometimes I just kind of need that outlet when I'm in a class. But at the beginning of all my classes, I always draw 5 lines. And as something pops up that's an aha for me or an action item, it goes on one of those 5 lines. So I'm always in a hunt for valuable information out of all training that I go to. And if I really want to dig through, I don't have to look everywhere all over my notebook. I just have to go to those 5 things from every class, right? So it's right there, easy to implement. But the best way to implement them, right, is for it to go onto your 411. I mean, that's where it should live. And the 411 you should look at every day. It was another question, Bill, you had. Did I answer all of your questions?
I appreciate what everything you said. I think it's just we deal, and I'm sure Robert and Mignon and I both are all encounter the same thing, is people coming into the company or coming into the business and you don't know where to start. And one of the things that I always say is when the head hits the pillow every night, you got to say to yourself, did I become a smarter agent today? Right? Did I learn something that I didn't know this morning? Right? Whether it be market wise or contract wise or script wise or presentation wise, am I a better agent than when I woke up? And the second thing is, have I grown my audience? Right? Do I have a bigger database than I did this morning? Are there more people in the universe that might approach me should they have a question about real estate? And if you said yes to both of those, you're probably okay, right? But you got to spend part of the day learning and you got to spend part of the day speaking to people. And if you don't do that stuff, what did you do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a reason at Peter's company about 3 years ago, we started implementing a daily 8:30 call, and it's called the Win Plan call. And when I first proposed this, everybody said, Andy, we have like 20 people on this team. This is going to take forever for us to go around the horn with people sharing their win from the previous day and their plan for today. Like, this is a waste of time. Why are we doing this? And I said, guys, we're going to get this done in under 10 minutes. Trust me. If it goes over 10 minutes, we won't ever do it again. We got finished with that call in 5 minutes, and everybody loves that call. It feels weird when we don't do it because there's gratitude associated with, what did we accomplish as a team? What did we do that mattered yesterday? What was our win? And then most importantly, what's our plan for today? What can we commit to? And how do we hold each other accountable to that? So everybody needs accountability and somebody to really kind of stab them in the front and say, you said that having an appointment this week was important to you and you didn't get it done. How do you feel about that? What got in the way? How are you going to change that next week? Give more people in your life permission to coach you.
Yeah, I love that. I said today, we are the coach of our clients, right? Sometimes we have to deliver news they want to hear, and sometimes we have to deliver news they don't really want to hear.
Yeah, you coach people or you teach people how to treat you as well. Yeah. Well, I know we're a little past our time. Was this helpful?
Very.
Very, very much.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah,
Can I ask
Well-
one last question, Andy?
absolutely.
So these agents that are newer, what book, I know it's a tough question, but what book besides the MREA, obviously that's a book that, we always want to read, but what book would you suggest right now that they read?
Gosh, there's so many. I love Start With Why. Start With Why by Simon Sinek. People don't care what you do, they only care why you do it. And the more you can understand why you work, what are you working for? The easier it is for you to get up in the morning and go to work, right? The more motivated you are whenever you understand why you're doing it. Also, you kind of understand if you're a visionary or an integrator, right? If you can understand that, wow, my head's in the sky, like I've got all these great ideas, I just have a hard time implementing. Well, that kind of tells you who you need in your world. Or maybe you don't have a lot of foresight. Like it's hard for you to predict what's going to happen. You don't have a sixth sense, but you're really good at just servicing, right? And make things happen. You might need a visionary. Right? That would change the way you look at how you're going to grow your business. Start With Why would probably be the first one. Another book that's probably going to tick you off and make you angry at times and has some vulgar language, but is still challenging, is The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Good one.
it's definitely offensive. I mean, there are things you'll read in that and you're like, I don't know that I want to continue reading this book. It's kind of vulgar. But there are some exceptional ideas in that. One of the ideas in that book that I love is the idea of saying yes and figuring it out. It's this idea of just go make a mess, right? Opportunity is everywhere. It's around every bend, and opportunity requires a yes answer. And there are people that are in this world, right? That no matter what the question is, they've already dictated that it's a no, right? They constantly walk around with no in their head. And you know who I'm describing. I'm describing somebody in your world right now, right? You're thinking about them as I'm saying this. But then there's also people in your world that say yes, and they are positive all the time, and they, find themselves in amazing situations and take advantage of opportunities. And it's all about the way you think, right? So I love Grant Cardone. I have not been to one of his events yet, but that's on my list of stuff to do. So those are two.
Awesome.
The only other one that I would suggest would be How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that Dale Carnegie book is timeless. I'm actually looking for a first edition of that book. I want it for my library because it's been such an instrumental book for me through the years. One of the principles in that is to give everyone a fine reputation to live up to. And what that means is, Robert is in my world, right? And my job is to give Robert a very, very fine reputation that he wants to live up to. Whether that's today, Scott Hamilton, right? My lead listing agent. I am going to sing his praises. I'm going to talk amazingly about him because I want him to live up to those standards, right? And that's just one of those things as I've been growing businesses has always helped me is you don't really get anywhere by talking down to people or talking about people. You focus on their positives and you let everybody know, what they're really, really good at. And they want to do better as a result of it.
Excellent.
All right. Well,
Andy, I hope you have taken a chance to. I always ask whenever we're closing out a meeting, your ahas, and we've got some ahas in the chat box, and it's really exciting to see that people are really getting some great value out of the time with you today. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
I just want to also thank you for putting this together, Mignon. I think you were probably instrumental in it. Thank you. I want to publicly express my gratitude for that.
Well,
Robert and Andy.
Yeah, you know, I wanted to have the opportunity to get in front of this group and just let you guys know how lucky you are. Productivity coaching does not look like this everywhere, if it even exists. And so I'm so grateful that y'all are taking advantage of this opportunity. Whenever I got into real estate, I enrolled in productivity coaching. It was the best thing I ever did. That productivity coach ended up being a team leader that was instrumental in growing our business. Robin Matthews, for those of you who know Robin, she was our productivity coach, you can imagine. And wow, that changed my life. It really did. So kudos to you for making an investment in not only your business, but your life. You're doing the right thing.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so very much, Andy.
Thank
All
you.
right, guys, y'all be good.
Thank you.
We're going to list some properties. Thank